How do you feed 6,000 people mid-ocean with no supermarkets, no deliveries, and 0 second chances? If this $2 million logistical grind off by even 1%, you're not just out of stake, you have an entire floating city on the verge of riot. To grasp this, look at the icon of the seas. This is a 250,000-ton machine nearly as long as the Empire State Building is tall. This is so much more than just a big boat. It is a floating city carrying 6,000 passengers and 2,300 crew members across the open ocean. On land, a restaurant can simply call a supplier if they run out of butter or eggs. Out here, you are a self-contained island. If the math fails and you run out of vital ingredients, the entire vacation experience collapses instantly. But one small mistake here creates a chain reaction that the ship isn't equipped to stop. We're talking about a relentless production of 30,000 individual meals every single day across 40 different dining venues. While guests lounge by one of the 7 pools, a massive staff of 1,300 is operating within an industrial reality that feels more like a car manufacturing plant than a kitchen. It is a high-pressure environment where running out is a firing offense. One single miscount in the inventory room translates to 6,000 hungry, angry passengers stuck in the middle of the Atlantic. But the real chaos, it doesn't even start at sea. It starts in a tiny window where everything can go wrong. The moment a ship docks for turnaround day, a countdown begins. This is the only window to restock the entire city before it vanishes back into the sea. Everything from fresh blueberries to industrial bags of flour enters through a massive central passageway on Deck 2, known as I-95. Named after the famous American highway, this corridor is the ship's literal lifeblood, stretching from the bow to the stern. It is a loud, frantic, and crowded tunnel where forklifts move at high speeds to beat the departure whistle. Imagine an entire truckload of beef and 250 pounds of sugar arriving simultaneously and needing to be catalogued into 22 different inventory rooms within a few hours. You'd think they have a massive margin for error, but one delayed pallet here can throw off the next 30,000 meals. The staff relies on cold, hard historical data to predict exactly how many children are on board or how much steak a specific Caribbean route consumes compared to a European one. If these projections miss the mark, the company has actually air freighted emergency supplies from Miami to the next port just to keep the menu intact. This I-95 corridor connects the stockrooms directly to the kitchens, or galleys, ensuring the raw chaos of the loading dock is filtered into the organized prep work required for survival. In a standard shoreside restaurant, the kitchen lights go out after the dinner rush. On a cruise ship, the kitchen never actually sleeps. By the time you're heading to your cabin for the night, the bakery team is just clocking in. At midnight, they're already fixing and rolling 5,000 mini baguettes and thousands of pastries to meet the morning breakfast demand. By 4 a.m., while the ship remains silent, the butcher room is at peak industrial intensity. These workers are cooks who are also high-volume technicians, processing 1,000 New York strip steaks and 4,000 lobster tails in a single session. This staggered multi-shift system is the only way to manage the sheer physical volume of meat and produce. If every chef started their day at 8 a.m., the ship would literally starve by noon. 6,000 people never even notice, but it is a brutal, invisible race against the clock. Every single minute is accounted for in a 24-hour manufacturing cycle that treats ingredients like raw materials on an assembly line. It takes 32 pastry chefs just to manage the dessert demand, which includes 1,600 baked Alaskas for a single evening. This schedule ensures that when the first guest walks into the dining room at dawn, the heavy lifting has already been finished in total darkness. One mistake people make is picturing a single giant kitchen trying to feed 6,000 guests. In reality, that would be a death sentence for the service. Instead, the ship operates as a decentralized network of 37 separate galleys, each acting as a specialized hub. Think of it like a hub-and-spoke model you see in global shipping. The raw prep happens in the basement of the ship, a cold industrial bunker where the produce team cuts at least 30,000 individual pieces of fruit and vegetables every single day. From there, these ingredients are air freighted internally, moved at high speeds through the hull to the specialized stations. Now, what might look like a simple snack behind a counter is more often than not a logistical miracle being pulled non-stop. A pizza shop open until 3 a.m. needs a constant stream of dough and toppings, while the 24-hour cafe requires a totally different set of logistics. This internal supply chain ensures that the main dining room isn't clogged with prep work for the specialty steakhouse or the buffet. It is a sprint where hundreds of chefs are working in silos, yet they are all tied to the same ticking clock. Even with 37 kitchens running at full speed, someone has to make sure the food actually tastes like a meal, not a military ration. When you're serving 4,000 lobster tails in a single night, consistency is your biggest enemy. It is incredibly easy for quality to slip when you're cooking at this scale, which is why the ship uses a check and balance system led by the executive chef. This almost ceremonial role is a high-pressure audit. Before the dinner rush starts, every major dish must pass a visual and taste profile check. The goal is to ensure that lobster tail number 1 is chemically and visually identical to lobster tail number 4,000. To achieve this, the ship uses rigid, automated recipes that leave zero room for artistic flair from individual cooks. It may sound like overkill until you realize that a single batch of undercooked seafood can spark a health crisis that grounds the vessel. Every gram of seasoning and every second of cook time is logged in a digital system. The executive chef walks the line, checking temperatures and plating, acting as the final filter before the food hits the elevators. If a batch of New York strip steaks is even slightly off the mark, it's flagged and pulled immediately. While maintaining this level of perfection is expensive, the nightmare isn't the grocery bill, it's the liability of what happens to the food that nobody eats. In 2022 alone, the industry produced enough compressed waste to fill 13 Olympic-sized swimming pools. To fight this, Royal Caribbean uses a brutal data-driven system called weight in, weight out. Every single tray of food that goes to the buffet is weighed to the ounce before it leaves the kitchen. At the end of the meal window, whatever comes back uneaten is weighed again. This gives the chefs a theoretical need versus the actual consumption. If they send out 100 pounds of scrambled eggs and 40 pounds came back, the data tells the AI to slash the order for the next morning. It's a cold, hard war on taste that has already reduced the ship's trash output by 24%. By treating leftovers as data points rather than trash, the ship can adjust its entire supply chain in real time to prevent the hull from becoming a floating landfill. All that data leads to a final uncomfortable question. What actually happens to the scraps that the weigh-in system can't prevent? Even with aggressive data tracking, waste is inevitable when feeding 6,000 people. You can't toss leftovers into the ocean. That's an environmental disaster and a legal nightmare. Instead, the ship uses a hidden treatment plant in the lower decks, where industrial pulpers grind scraps into a fine slurry. It's a relentless high-tech filter because a single unauthorized dump wouldn't kill the local reef and trigger millions in fines, along with a permanent ban from international waters. Every single gallon of discharge is logged and monitored under a microscope by maritime authorities who don't care about your dinner schedule. This final stage completes the dynamic equilibrium of the vessel. It is a 24-hour cycle of pure math and physics, from the I-95 docks to the 4 a.m. butcher shifts and the final pumping out of the scraps. This invisible mechanical heartbeat is the only reason a 250,000-ton machine stays floating, while passengers never miss a meal. The logistics are nothing less than a masterpiece of engineering.